The stars of Eden 381 twinkled like scattered diamonds against the velvet darkness. Commander Mara Dae squinted through the viewport of the colony ship, feeling the weight of generations resting on her shoulders. The ship had traveled for centuries, caught in the stillness of cryosleep, bringing a handful of humanity's best and brightest to a new world. And now, at last, they were here. "Prepare for descent," Mara commanded, her voice steady despite the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. The crew sprang into action, checking systems, running final diagnostics. The atmosphere of Eden 381 shimmered below, lush and vibrant, filled with possibilities. "Entering the atmosphere," shouted Lieutenant Gray, eyes glued to the control panel. The ship shuddered, and the view outside softened as wisps of cloud enveloped them. "All systems green, Commander?" "Good," Mara said, but a prickle of unease crawled up her spine. They had only just crossed the threshold of the known frontier. Hope battled apprehension inside her. She felt the pulse of the ship beneath her, a living entity cradling dreams and fears. A sudden jolt jolted her from her thoughts. The shuttle, their landing craft, broke from the ship's hold just as a deep rumble shook the hull. "Commander, I've got a visual anomaly." Gray's voice sliced through the tension. The screen fizzled, revealing a flash of crimson light at the surface. "What the hell is that?" Mara demanded, her heart racing. Before she could respond, the world exploded. A blinding flash enveloped their view, and the shuttle shattered into 1,000 fragments. Chaos erupted in the cockpit. Alarms blared, and the control panel sparked as the remnants of the shuttle vanished into the abyss below. "Mara, we're losing control." Gray's face turned pale. Panic surged in the cramped space. "Maneuver to stable orbit! We need to assess!" she shouted, gripping the console. But beneath her calm, dread threatened to overwhelm. Suddenly, the ship's comms emitted a distorted signal. The eerie sound cut through the chaos, a voice twisted by time. "This is the Shepherd's Dawn, requesting assistance. Go, do not expand. They notice." The transmission crackled, fading into static before it vanished. "What was that?" someone whispered, fear saturating the air. Mara froze. A distress signal from a ship lost 120 years ago. "Commander, we can't stay here. We need to make repairs and—" "No," she cut him off. "We can't abandon this mission. We need to investigate." The gravity of her decision settled in. A chill ran down her spine. She glanced at the remnants of their path, frozen in time, half-remembered dreams, now shattered. "Prepare a recon unit for descent. We need to find out what happened." As Mara struggled to contain her rising dread, the words of the strange transmission echoed in her mind, intertwining with the fear in her crew's eyes. "Do not expand. They notice." And somewhere out there, beyond the embrace of the stars, something was watching. "Something is still alive down there," Mara said, her voice steady with resolve, but her heart raced with uncertainty. The crew gathered around her, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. The flickering lights of the control panel cast shadows across their faces. "Are we sure about this?" Lieutenant Gray asked, his brow furrowed. "We have no idea what happened to the Shepherd's Dawn. We could be walking into a trap." "I can't shake the feeling it's connected to the distress signal," Mara replied, her eyes narrowing. "We need answers. Let's move." Mara led the team into the shuttle bay. Several crew members exchanged worried glances, their apprehension thick in the air. They prepped their gear in tense silence. "Commander," Ensign Marlowe said, a note of apprehension in her voice. "If that ship is still there, what if it's not just abandoned? We could find survivors, or something worse." Mara's throat tightened. "We'll be ready for anything. Suit up." Moments later, they boarded the smaller craft, a sleek shuttle designed for quick reconnaissance. The engines hummed to life, and they watched through the window as Eden 381's vibrant landscape scrolled beneath them, dense forests teeming with unfamiliar life. "Engaging descent," Gray said. He looked back, his expression unreadable. "Let's just hope whatever happened down there stayed down there." The shuttle broke through the clouds, revealing a clearing strewn with shattered metal and overgrown with alien flora. The wreckage of the Shepherd's Dawn lay half submerged in the earth like a buried secret. "Touchdown!" Gray stabilized the shuttle, cutting the engines. Mara led the way out, her heart pounding. Each step brought her closer to the truth and closer to danger. As they approached the twisted remains of the ship, dread gnawed at her. The silence hung thick, oppressive. "Spread out. Secure the area," she commanded, scanning their surroundings. The foreign plants writhed as if alive, brushing against their suits. A flash of movement caught her eye. Beneath the twisted debris, something weakly stirred. "Over here," she called. The crew gathered, gasping as they unveiled what looked like a child, small, dirt-streaked, and frozen in fear. "Mara!" One crew member gasped, his voice trembling. "Is that?" "Yes." Mara knelt, her heart sinking. "It's a girl." The child looked up, eyes wide and unnaturally calm. "They saw you coming." Her voice was a whisper, filled with strange knowledge. "You shouldn't have come here." Before Mara could respond, the earth seemed to tremble beneath their feet. A deep rumble echoed from the ground, sending vibrations throughout the wreckage. "Get back!" Mara shouted, instinctively grabbing the child's arm. Then, with a deafening roar, something massive broke through the surface. An obsidian tower, reaching skyward as if it had always belonged there, gleaming ominously in the filtered sunlight. The crew scrambled, their fears manifested. "What the hell is happening?" Gray yelled, losing his grip on control. "Mara!" A crew member screamed as a dissonant pulse rippled outward, causing visible waves in the air around them. "Everyone, fall back!" Mara shouted, her protective instincts surging. But the child stood frozen, staring at the tower with a knowing calm. "It's too late," she murmured, her voice eerily soft. "They're watching you." The ground shook again, this time with a low, resonant hum that filled Mara's chest with fear and confusion. Just then, she felt the tower shift, and shadows converged around them, drawing closer. "Get to the shuttle," she commanded, but the weight of dread smothered her as she eyed the tower. Whatever was awakening beneath their feet, it was not done yet. Silence shattered as the ground roared. The obsidian tower erupted from beneath, towering above the wreckage of the Shepherd's Dawn, like a black monolith reaching for the sky. Mara's heart raced. "Get back! Fall!" The pulse hit her mid-sentence. It rippled through the air, crashing into their bodies like a tidal wave. Waves of confusion washed over the crew as their surroundings warped, blurring reality. Each pulse echoed in their chests, tightening their throats. "Commander!" Lieutenant Gray shouted, staggering back as his eyes darted around. "What?" What is that thing? I don't know, Mara yelled, adrenaline spurring her movements. We need to. But the child remained rooted to the ground, eyes fixed on the tower, unblinking, unafraid. They can see you, she whispered again, quieter now, as if the very words might draw attention. Move, Mara shouted, grabbing the girl's hand, but the child didn't budge. Instead, she looked up at Mara, her face eerily calm amidst the chaos. They're coming. Who's coming? Mara asked, anxiety bubbling through her. With a deep rumble, the tower pulsed again, and Mara was hit with images, flashes of alien worlds, fading star systems, and glimpses of twisted beings merging in endless void. Each vision bled into her consciousness, screeching against her mind. Commander! Gray gasped, his eyes wide and unfocused. There's something happening to me. I can see things. Others clutched their heads, some screaming in terror as delusions engulfed them. Mara fought to maintain her grip on reality. Hold on. Focus on me. Then, the tower released a deafening pulse. The sound shattered glass and rattled bone, too alien, too strong. One engineer fell to the ground, clawing at his face. They've seen through me, he howled, his voice raw, panic twisting his features. Don't look! Stay with us! Mara screamed, rushing toward the man, but stopping short as shadows stirred around the tower. Get to the shuttle! She yelled, her voice strained, desperation clawing at her throat. The child finally moved, her eyes luminous. It's too late. You're already part of this. She pointed at the tower, as if tethered to its ominous presence. Mara turned back to the crew. Now! Move! But the command felt empty, the words lost in the chaos. Shadows shifted, forming shapes that loomed as if alive. The vibrations intensified, felt more than heard, tugging at the edges of their minds. As Mara braced for the inevitable confrontation, a light beamed from the tower, bright and blinding. The entire crew shielded their eyes. Just then, Mara glimpsed something within the light, a swirling mass that seemed to pulse and breathe. The Watchers, the child murmured, barely audible over the chaos. They're waking up. Just move! Mara shouted again, pulling the child as hands gripped her shoulders, fear choking her resolve. We need to get out! But before they could retreat, the air trembled with a deep, rumbling growl from the tower, sending a shockwave rippling through them. Mara stumbled, breath hitching. What's happening? Gray shouted, panic cracking his voice. A crack in the ground opened beneath their feet, and with it, the structure of reality itself wavered. Mara felt the pull of something dark, something ancient closing in. Mara! Gray shouted. Please, let's go! But she hesitated, her eyes drawn to the tower, an ancient sentinel awakening from its long slumber. This isn't just a shipwreck, she murmured, trying to pull her focus back to them. It's a fortress. Fortress or not, we're out of time! One of the crewmen shouted, sprinting toward the shuttle. Everyone scrambled, but Mara felt rooted in place. The child's expression was a mixture of sorrow and knowledge, as if she understood what was about to unfold. Run! Mara commanded, adrenaline flooding her system. They turned to sprint back to the shuttle, but the ground shook violently. An explosion of debris scattered, sending them sprawling. In that instant, the towering structure resonated with a sound like a heartbeat, a pulse, consistent and overpowering. Mara swung around, grasping the child's hand as the obsidian tower loomed ominously. We can't stay here, she yelled, but the child merely smiled a knowing smile, eyes reflecting a steely resolution. It's too late. They're watching, she repeated softly. At that moment, the ground ripped open in a rift, and shadows poured forth, thrumming with a malignant energy. Mara realized in a startling flash, this wasn't an accident. The shepherd's dawn hadn't been lost to time. They had been lured. "Don't look back!" Mara shouted, heart pounding. "Run!" As her crew fled, she stole one last glance at the tower, feeling its power reverberate through her very bones. An alien intelligence awakened, and they were now prey. And the child, unshaken, whispered, "It's begun." With dread pooling in her stomach, Mara sprinted into the chaos, knowing they had ventured deep into a nightmare for which there was no escape, and whatever lurked in the darkness was only just beginning to reveal itself. A blinding beam shot from the obsidian tower, slicing through the dark void of space like a harbinger of doom. Mara's heart raced as she staggered into the tower, its slick surface pulsing beneath her fingertips. The air hummed with chaos and urgency. "Commander!" Lieutenant Gray shouted, his voice taut with panic. "What if it's a trap?" "It's our only chance," she replied, pulling him forward. "We have to disable that signal." Inside, twisted holographic recordings flickered to life around them, displaying scenes from dying worlds. Other species begged for mercy from unseen forces, their faces twisted in terror. They crumbled into nothingness, swallowed by the void. "What? What are we looking at?" Gray whispered, a tremor in his voice. "I don't know," Mara admitted, her gut twisting. "But we can't let it keep sending out that signal." The countdown at the apex of the tower glowed ominously. 4 minutes remaining. A shiver raced down Mara's spine. "We need to find the control room." The corridor shifted around them, the walls bending as if they were breathing. The air thickened like molasses. "It feels alive," one of the crew murmured, hesitating. "Keep moving!" Mara barked, the urgency in her voice biting into the hesitation. They pressed forward, but the disorienting pulsing intensified. Mara caught flashes of her own memories, long-forgotten laughter, the last sunset she had seen on Earth, and shook them away. "Focus," she urged, but the visions clawed at her resolve. "We're almost there." Suddenly the floor trembled violently. Shadows writhed in the corners of her vision, growing larger, more defined. "They're coming back!" Gray cried out, panic exploding in his chest. From the depths of the tower a low rumble echoed, promising wrath and destruction. Mara glanced back, her heart threatening to spill over. "Get ready!" "Commander!" a crew member shouted, backing away in terror. "It's shifting! The walls!" Before she could respond, jagged spikes burst from the edges of the corridor. They scraped the floor, drawing closer, hungry for something she couldn't fathom. "How do we stop this?" Gray yelled, scrambling to stay upright. Mara gritted her teeth. "We die trying." They rounded the final corner and fled up a spiraling staircase, the countdown now ticking 3 minutes remaining. 2, 1. Above them, the heart of the tower pulsed, bright and furious. "Need to get to the control panel!" Mara screamed, lunging toward the shimmering light. But as they approached, the air crackled, and a booming voice resonated around them, chilling her to the core. "You are not meant to be here." The crew stopped, eyes wide in terror. The child, who had so eerily foretold their doom, suddenly appeared at the threshold of the chamber. her calm demeanor juxtaposed with the chaos swirling around them. "Years of isolation," she said softly, "and now it wakes." Mara's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "It's too late, they're watching," the child replied, a strange clarity in her eyes. As time seemed to freeze, Mara felt a palpable shift. Shadows twisted and coalesced into forms, flickering like dying stars, bearing down on them. "Mara!" Gray shouted, panic sparking from the depths of his voice. "What do we do?" Mara's mind raced. But before she could finish her thought, the countdown chimed, and everything plunged into chaos. A bolt of light erupted from the center of the chamber, illuminating them in an otherworldly glow. The pulse quickened, blaring in concert with their heartbeats. "Find a way to stop it!" Mara cried, blind to the swirling chaos around her. But the shadows were no longer just watching. They were now here, in this moment. As they braced for impact, Mara caught the child's gaze. In that split second, an understanding flickered between them. A choice was looming, but would it lead to salvation or ruin? The beam from the tower intensified, and the reality around them twisted even further. The light engulfed everything. "We can't let it call them," Mara shouted, but doubt crept in. A creeping realization that they hadn't just stumbled onto a secret. They had ignited something ancient and powerful, and as the child's smile widened, the air shuddered. And Mara knew. Something was waking, and it was no longer just in their minds. They were not just running from the tower anymore. They were running toward an awakening. The beam from the obsidian tower shattered the darkness, igniting the void with its piercing light. Mara felt the heat even from where she stood, heart pounding as panic coursed through her veins. "Commander!" Lieutenant Gray's voice was a tight wire of fear. "What if it's a trap?" Mara gritted her teeth. "It's our only chance. We have to stop that signal." They plunged into the tower, slick walls pulsing like a living creature. Holographic images sprang to life around them, terrifying faces of alien species pleading for mercy, their final moments caught in a static loop. She shuddered at the horror reflected in their eyes as they faded into nothingness. What are we looking at?" Gray whispered. "I don't know," she admitted, stomach churning. "But if we don't stop it, we'll end up like them." The countdown overhead glowed ominously. 4 minutes remaining. Mara swallowed hard, forcing her legs to move. "We need to find the control room." As they made their way down the corridor, shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. "It feels alive," one crew member murmured. She could see the fear in his eyes. "Stay focused," Mara barked, her voice cutting through the growing unease. They pushed forward, but the air began to thicken, almost tangible. It dragged at them like a mist. "Commander!" Gray gasped, trembling. "What's happening?" "We're close," she said with false assurance. But memories tugged at her thoughts. Her mother, the scent of fresh earth, laughter echoing across a summer field. She shook them away and pressed on. "Move!" Suddenly the entire tower trembled, spitting out darkness that swallowed their light. "They're coming back!" Gray shouted. Mara glanced over her shoulder, dread clawing at her resolve. "Get ready!" The corridor twisted, and jagged spikes erupted from the walls, screeching as they drew closer. "How do we stop this?" Gray yelled, adrenaline fueling his words. "Find the control panel!" Mara cried, heart racing. They sprinted up the spiraling staircase, the countdown now at 2 minutes. Above them, a brilliant light pulsed, as if alive, waiting. "We can't let it call them!" Mara shouted, desperation rising. Then a booming voice echoed through the chamber, resonating in their bones. "You are not meant to be here." The crew halted, eyes wide, and the child appeared, a serene island in their stormy reality. "Years of isolation," she stated, gaze steady. "And now, it wakes." "What do you mean?" Mara demanded, breathless. "It's too late. They see you," the girl whispered, her calm piercing through Mara's rising fear. As shadows coalesced around them, Mara's heart sank. They were not just running from the tower anymore. They were running toward an awakening, a reckoning. "Mara, what do we do?" Gray shouted, panic igniting anew. A flicker of understanding passed between the child and Mara, a choice hanging in the air. Suddenly the countdown blared again, the pressure mounting. "Find a way to stop it," Mara yelled, but it felt futile against the magnitude of what they had unleashed. The beam intensified, the light engulfing everything as Mara braced for impact. They had ignited an ancient power, and as the child smiled, shadows stretched and twisted, the air shaking with malevolence. Mara knew they were awakening something far beyond their comprehension. "Run!" she screamed, but the command was swallowed in the chaos. Something was coming, something hungry and ancient. The warden blazed into existence, a shifting mass of fractals and light coalescing into an ungraspable form. Mara felt its presence wash over her, a psychic pressure that left her breathless and paralyzed. "Commander," Lieutenant Gray stammered. "What is that?" "I don't know," she gasped, fighting against the waves of fear that threatened to consume her. The child stood beside her, calm and eerily unaffected. "What does it want?" The warden pulsed brightly, a voice slicing through their minds, its words invasive and cold. "You have awakened me. You were not meant to leave your cradle." Mara's heart sank. "What do you mean?" she managed to ask, struggling to keep her voice steady. "The quarantine looms over your species," it continued, the harmony of its resonance cutting through the air like thunder. "Your expansion is an infection. It cannot be allowed." "What infection?" Gray shouted, fury mingled with fear. "We're trying to survive out here." "Survival leads to destruction," the warden responded. "Every time you reach for the stars, you risk awakening what slumbers in the void. What you face today is only a whisper of what lies beyond your reality." The air thickened around Mara. The implications wrapped themselves around her throat, squeezing tighter. "We'll find a way to stop it," she yelled defiantly, but even to herself the words felt hollow. "Time does not bend to you," it warned, the shadows around them twisting with its voice. "You have shattered the bounds of your existence. Now they notice." Mara's chest tightened, and her vision blurred. Memories spiraling through her mind. Moments of laughter, of warmth, of earth. She blinked, trying to force them away, desperate to stay focused. But in the corners of her mind, something stoked fear. The child reached for her, eyes wide and intense. "They're coming back now," she said, each word heavy with inevitability. "What do you mean?" Mara turned to the girl, grasping for clarity. "They've been waiting," the child whispered, her voice a quiet storm. "They've always been waiting." Mara's resolve flared. "Then we'll show them we're not afraid. We're not just going to—" "There is no escape," the warden interrupted, its voice now a cacophony of terror and inevitability. You will either conform, or your kind will be extinguished. Conform? Gray spat, drawing a shaky breath. We won't submit to this. The warden pulsed again, angry light scattering against the walls. You are insignificant, but your defiance echoes. A pain lanced through Mara's mind, sharper than any physical wound, constricting her thoughts. She felt the stopwatch of the countdown disappearing into a suffocating void. 3 minutes left, she realized. But what good would that do them now? Commander, we need to leave, Gray urged, but Mara couldn't move, caged by the weight of truth. As the shadows bled forward, they morphed into dark figures that rushed toward the crew, and panic erupted around her. Run! Find a way to stop it, she shouted, but her voice was lost in the chaos. Suddenly, the child's calm demeanor fractured. It's too late, she screamed, trembling as the darkness closed in. Mara turned back, rage eclipsing fear. We can't just give up. But deep down, terror twisted in her gut. Then, as if in response, the beam intensified, whipping through the chamber like a living serpent. Mara's breath hitched as a hollowness echoed in her chest. This wasn't just the confrontation of a species. It was a reckoning with the abyss itself. Get to the control room, she yelled, but it felt like straining against the tide of inevitability. With no choice left but to run, they fled deeper into the nightmare. But just as quickly as they moved, shadows encircled them, an oppressive dark that threatened to swallow the last vestiges of hope. They were igniting a force beyond their comprehension, awakening something that could never be put back to sleep. Mara, we have to. Gray's voice, coupled with the child's panicked sobs, pierced her thoughts. But the air hummed with malevolence as the warden's voice rolled through the chamber once more. Prepare for extinction. And in that moment, she knew there would be no second chances. Mara's heart raced as the warden's voice echoed, a sharp reminder of their dire reality. You will either conform, or your kind will be extinguished. The proclamation sent shivers through her body. No, we won't let you erase us, Gray shouted, battling against the crushing dread. Shadows loomed, flickering with menace, pulling at the edges of their sanity. The child, a bizarre anchor in this storm, trembled beside Mara. They've been waiting, she whispered, eyes wide with fear. Mara gritted her teeth, fighting to regain control. Listen to me. We need to focus. We need to find a way to stop this thing. But panic surged within her crew. What can we do? It's too powerful. Gray's voice trembled, heavy with hopelessness. Mara took a step forward, grounding herself amidst the chaos. We turn its own fear against it. If we can disrupt its equilibrium. It knows us, Gray shouted, despair clawing at him. It knows our every move. A flicker of determination sparked in Mara. Then let's give it something it doesn't understand. She glanced at the child, an unsettling thought racing through her mind. The memories, our past, our feelings. We use it to confuse them. Suddenly the warden pulsed in rage, the air around them crackling with tension. Prepare for extinction. The words resonated like thunder, shattering any last hope Mara held. Run! We need to broadcasting raw human emotion. Everything we are, she cried. As if responding, the dark figures surged forward, tendrils of shadow reaching hungrily. Panic erupted. Crew members stumbled, screaming in fear. Mara fought through the chaos, adrenaline surging. "Commander, it's everywhere!" One crewman shouted, eyes wild. Mara anchored herself against her fear. "Stay together. We can't let it—" The obsidian walls trembled, vibrating with the warden's displeasure. No escape. The entities closed in like a tide, tightening their grip. "It's too late. They're coming for us," the child screamed, her calm facade crumbling under despair. "Keep moving," Mara urged, her voice cutting through the growing cacophony. They rushed toward the control room, desperation fueling each step. Behind them, the darkness thickened. The shadows lunged, and Mara felt a chill claw at the base of her spine. "We can't let it consume us," she called, grasping the child's hand. Just as they reached the entrance, a blinding light erupted. The shadows recoiled, but it was not enough. Mara stumbled, disoriented. "No, don't look back!" The control room door slammed shut. They were safe, for now. But the countdown echoed in her mind, a reminder of their impending doom. "What do we do?" Gray gasped, breathless. Mara's gaze shifted to the child, understanding crystallizing in her mind. "We need to unleash everything we've ever felt, the raw chaos of humanity." But even as her words left her lips, doubt gnawed at her resolve. How could emotions defeat an entity that thrived on control? The countdown ticked down. The voice of the warden echoed through the walls, cold and relentless. "You have awakened me." Mara swallowed hard, dread pooling in her stomach. "We can't let it win. We must act now." But just as she stepped forward, a violent tremor rocked the room. Lights flickered, and dark shadows surged from every corner, closing in. "Commander!" The voice of Gray cut through the chaos, panic twisting his words. But the warden's presence grew stronger, engulfing them in an abyss of dread. Mara gripped her weapon, her knuckles white. "We don't back down. Not now." But uncertainty crept into her heart. They were on the brink of annihilation. As the control room warped into chaos, Mara felt despair clawing at her mind. "We have to hold on. We can't." The darkness flooded in, swallowing her cries. One moment they were there, the next they were lost in the void. And then silence. The walls trembled, and Mara felt the weight of dread suffocating her. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, shifting and writhing like living nightmares. "We're not alone," she whispered, her pulse quickening. "They're here." "Commander, we're running out of time." Gray's voice cracked, laced with panic, dragging her from the abyss of terror. On the child's trembling lips, a line of fear formed. "They're hungry," she said, wide-eyed, as if she were sensing some primal instinct. Mara's heart raced. "We need to fight. We can't let them take us." The countdown ticked ominously. 4 minutes left. "What can we do against that?" Gray's despair was palpable, shadows twisting menacingly around them. "It's everywhere, Mara. It knows us." Her mind raced, searching desperately. "Emotions," the word echoed through the gloom. "We'll broadcast everything we feel. Love, despair, rage, raw humanity. It can't process it." "They'll laugh at our weakness," Gray retorted bitterly. "Then let them," Mara shouted back. "We'll show them who we are." But the shadows surged forward, curling like claws, swallowing her breath in icy tendrils. What if it doesn't work? Came a shaky voice from the back. I won't let us be erased, Mara cried, adrenaline igniting her resolve. We can't back down now? The warden's voice reverberated in the air, cold and omnipotent. Prepare for extinction. Mara's heart sank. Keep moving, she urged, grasping the child's hand tightly. They dashed toward the control room, racing against the clock, the darkness closing in behind them. Commander! Gray shouted, his voice echoing in the chaos. Don't look back! They burst into the control room. Metal screamed as the door slammed shut behind them, but the countdown persisted, relentless. 3 minutes left. What now? Gray panted, his fear palpable. Mara scanned the room, desperation clawing at her. We need to feed them our feelings, our chaos. And what if that just makes it worse? Gray challenged, a flicker of doubt in his voice. It's our only shot, Mara insisted, the resolve in her tone silencing his objections. Channel all the raw data, every memory of joy or loss. It's unpredictable. That's what it needs to be confounded. Suddenly the walls hummed with a deep pulsing, the shadows seeping through cracks. You have awakened me, the warden's voice echoed with chilling clarity. Fear tightened her chest. Now, now, she shouted, pushing her crew to the consoles. As they lunged to comply, the shadows rolled in, thick and suffocating. Mara fought against it, desperate to hold on. We won't be erased. Not today. But the pressure mounted, straining against her sanity. This is it, Mara! We're losing control! Gray's voice trembled wildly as the dark tendrils encroached, wrapping tightly around their thoughts. Stay focused! Her grip on the console tightened as dread crawled beneath her skin. We have to hold. An eruption of darkness slashed through the room, silencing her words, drowning them in a horrifying abyss. The countdown blared in defiance. Then there was silence. The lights flickered and plunged them into blackness. In that void, despair became palpable. And then the doors slammed open again, revealing a writhing mass of shadows. Commander! Gray's voice pierced through the dark. Don't look, Mara shouted, feeling the weight of despair clawing at her mind. But they had awakened the warden, and now it was coming for them. The darkness erupted, tightening its grip around Mara like a vice. We're out of time, she shouted, but the shadows hissed louder, drowning her resolve in their icy breath. It was suffocating, monstrous. Command squad, ready? Gray barked, his voice strained as he fumbled at the controls. Panic surged in his eyes, reflecting her own fears. What do we do? We unleash the chaos. Mara pressed forward, instincts flaring amidst the encroaching void. They were faces in the storm now, fighting against something vast and incomprehensible. All of it, every memory we have, good, bad, everything. The countdown blared steadily. 2 minutes left. Each tick pushed her heart into her throat. She could feel the shadows whispering, probing, seeking the weak, targeting her insecurities. It tugged at her thoughts, a deep, gnawing despair that tried to pull her into the abyss. Commander? Gray trembled, sweat glistening on his forehead. What if this only makes it worse? Mara's resolve wavered, but she couldn't show it. It has to work. If we don't show them that we feel, they'll swallow us whole. We can't let them erase us. The weight of her leadership pressed down on her like a shroud, and for a moment, the fear almost threatened to overtake her. Was she leading them to their doom? Just trust me, she urged, her voice fierce even as doubt gnawed at the corners of her mind. She thrust her hand over the console, directing their energies. Feel your memories, all of you. This is our humanity. Let it out. The crew, reluctant but desperate, began channeling their deepest emotions. Love for lost friends, the agony of abandonment, the ecstatic thrill of discovery. The shadows flinched, curling back as if stung. Yes, Mara shouted, exhilaration surging through her. They were pushing back the dark. But the warden's voice poured over them, cold and unyielding. Prepare for extinction. As the walls vibrated with each sinister tone, fear turned to fury inside Mara. Keep pushing! Don't stop! That's when the lights flickered, and the very structure of their reality seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The shadows merged, then unfurled, swirling toward them. Commander, I can't hold on! Gray's cries echoed against the chaos as he struggled with his own memories. With a wild surge of desperation, Mara grasped at her own emotions, full of life. Moments spent with her mother at dawn, the caress of wind on her face. They needed ambiguous warmth against the cold malevolence encroaching around them, and in that surge, she felt the tide shift. The darkness flinched again, twisting and hesitating as if uncertain of its next move. Now hit it, Mara ordered, and the crew unleashed a torrent of raw feeling, a cacophony of humanity laid bare. The shadows writhed but were becoming less coherent, more confused. This wasn't their language. This wasn't what they had prepared for. But just as hope sparked, the warden recalibrated. Like a predator regaining its footing, it pushed back hard, and Mara felt the shadows tighten around her throat. Dread wormed its way back in, whispering treason in her mind. The countdown droned chillingly. 10, 9. Keep going, Mara urged, reaching for the control interface, her fingers quaking. The walls quaked beneath her, desperate for release. Don't let it swallow you. Then, as if in response, the ground beneath them trembled violently, and the child, their guardian, vanished. Mara! Gray screamed, but her heart pounded louder. The shadows coiled tighter, squeezing the very essence from her, and Mara realized then time itself was unraveling. Every breath was a countdown, every heartbeat an echo of the chaos that thrummed through the depths of space. Fight! She cried, rage and longing surging through her veins. Fight for humanity! But the warden was ascending, a looming leviathan of cold certainty and grim inevitability. The countdown reached 0, and nothing happened. But the void answered. The silence that followed was a heavy shroud, thick enough to suffocate hope. Mara blinked against the darkness, disoriented and engulfed by an eerie calm that followed the storm. She felt weightless in the aftermath, as if reality itself had cracked and left her afloat in its hidden depths. The countdown had reached 0, and yet the universe held its breath. She looked around at her crew, all of them struggling to grasp what they'd just endured. Gray was slumped against the console, his features etched in pale shock. The others, too, seemed haunted, their faces reflecting disbelief and empty resignation as they processed the enormity of their loss. The weight of uncertainty hung thick in the air, shadows not of malice, but of mourning. What just happened? Gray's voice cracked, a fragile whisper in the echoing void. Mara swallowed hard, a lump lodged in her throat. I don't know, she admitted, feeling the chill of doubt seep into her bones. The child, their beacon, their tether to innocence, was gone, plucked from existence, swallowed by the very chaos they sought to overcome. Mara's heart ached for her, for what could have been if they'd only found a way to reach her. The crew was silent, each lost in their own spirals of thoughts, grappling with the price of their defiance. Memories flooded back unbidden. Laughter at sunrise, quiet evenings filled with peaceful resilience. The warmth they had fought to protect now felt like a distant dream. In that stillness, the warden's chilling declaration echoed in her mind, taunting her with the truths she had tried desperately to defy. Prepare for extinction. No, not extinction, not yet. The warden had given them a chance, hadn't it? An argument against the void. Mara sighed, dragging a hand through her hair, feeling the weight of everything they just faced. The burden of leadership surged back, pressing down on her like a crushing tide. With a trembling exhale, she stepped away from the console, taking in the faces of the crew, broken, battered, yet still here. They had survived. But what was survival without hope? Listen, she said, forcing her voice to rise above the shadows. We may have lost the child, but we haven't lost each other. We've seen the true cost of defiance like echoes of the past. But even in despair, we have the choice to engage with that chaos we unleashed. The words felt sturdy, solid, even if doubt flickered in the corners of her mind. Is there a way back? One of the engineers asked, his voice cautious yet curious. I don't know, she breathed. But we have to understand what we did. That chaos, it stirred something within the warden. Shadows may shift, but we brought unpredictability into its order, and that may give us a chance to recalibrate. But she's gone, Gray said, eyes bright with unshed tears. What if we never see her again? Mara shut her eyes briefly, forcing down the sob that threatened to break free. We find a way to honor her, with every memory, every emotion we have left. Maybe she is the key we're missing. Could they reach beyond the weight of knowledge and grief? Could they let their emotions guide them once more? In the silence, shadows began to pulse rhythmically, as if the universe itself was deliberating their fate. Mara felt a lone flicker of hope ignite in her chest, daring to illuminate the void. Let's gather what we can remember, she urged, her voice steadier now, infused with a tentative determination. Let's confront the warden together, not as soldiers but as humans. We carry everything she represented. We owe it to her. The crew exchanged glances, uncertainty warring with determination. It was flickering, the faintest glimmer of rebellion against despair. And that possibility hung tantalizingly in the air. If they could tap their collective humanity, perhaps they could forge a way to illuminate the darkness that loomed, to redefine their fate. As they began to share memories once more, Mara felt the energy shift. The shadows danced, hesitant yet entranced. But deep down, she sensed an undercurrent, a remnant of something unseen, a guarded potential woven within the very tapestry of life, whispering that maybe, just maybe, they could rewrite the end. But were they ready to pay the ultimate price for freedom? Time would soon reveal the answer. The moment hung in the air like a fading echo, the weight of their defiance pressing against unyielding emptiness. Mara stood at the console, heart racing, as she grasped the fragile hope flickering within her. We survived, she thought, even as uncertainty wrapped around them like a shroud. Eden 381 loomed outside the wide viewport, an unkempt garden of vibrant colors and stark shadows. The stars shimmered, distant and cold, pressing in, but they were alive. Human memories swirled in Mara's mind. The warmth of laughter, the peace of a sunset on Earth, the soft rustle of wind through tall grass. Those visceral connections filled the void left by the child. "We've stirred something," she said, breaking the oppressive silence, her voice steady but raw. "The warden may have unleashed its chaos upon us, yet we found our chaos, and that gives us power." "But what does that power mean?" Gray asked, his voice trembling beneath a fragile veneer of strength. "What if it devours us again?" "It means we confront the unknown. We've become more than what we were, more than just travelers seeking to expand," she replied, meeting their desperate eyes. "We are alive in a way that scares them. We survived for a reason." Mara took a deep breath, grounding herself in the electric weight of possibility. "Let's share what we carry. Each memory, every surge of love, heartache, or joy, we can weave them into a tapestry that confounds the warden's logic." Desperation mingled with curiosity. The crew gathered, leaning in. They began to speak, softly at first, drawing memories from the depths of their hearts. Words spilled like whispers of sunshine, igniting the dimness. Vivid images floated through the air. A newborn's first cry, the thrill of adventure, the tender embrace of a loved one. Each person's feelings melded to form a radiant pulse that resonated through the ship's core. As their cacophony of humanity enveloped them, shadows within the cockpit shimmered, danced, and expanded. An unfathomable force stirred, compelling the warden to confront the chaotic warmth radiating from the ship. Mara felt its trepidation, the way it recoiled from the unpredictability, a weakness to exploit. "I can feel it," she exclaimed, voice quaking with revelation. "It fears what it cannot understand. Keep going. Share all we can. Our dreams, our pain, our love." For hours, they poured their souls into the vibrant, luminescent tapestry, weaving their humanity into a form of resistance. As memories collided, the warden writhed outside, a disjointed mass of fear and confusion. The energy shifted, creating ripples that spread beyond the ship. Then, with a shattering brilliance, an expanding flash illuminated the darkness. Moments of blazing joy and sorrow erupting through the silence like supernovae. The warden broke, ephemeral pieces scattering across the void. But a deep hum resonated in Mara's heart, a sudden stillness. The shadows surrounding them began to swirl, reshaping. "Did we conquer it?" she whispered, half to herself, half to her crew. "No," Gray murmured, brow furrowed. "We've merely caught its attention. This isn't over." And yet, as stars reeled in dazzling constellations, a sense of victory coursed through her. In confronting the darkness within, they had transformed what it meant to be human. Incredible, flawed, uncontainable. Their lives had woven together like threads in the infinite fabric of reality. "We are more than conquerors," she declared, voice swelling with newfound strength. "We are life. And though they are listening, we are declaring our voices. Their curiosity will not lead to our doom. They will understand we thrive, we love, and we choose to exist." She paused, every heartbeat echoing defiance. Could they illuminate the void? If ascension required sacrifice, they would meet it head-on, each unique pulse a challenge thrown into the cosmic abyss. But were they ready to pay the ultimate price for freedom? Only time would tell. As the universe held its breath, Mara felt a shiver of potential coil within the cool, starlit expanse. Tomorrow, hope whispered across the silent void, still looming, but perhaps now, they truly illuminated the path ahead. And it began with the bold spark of their everlasting humanity.